I sent out an email asking for cases, and I also used that same email to ask ChatGPT that we're looking for use cases that are essential strategy for building our career brand, that it helps us advance, choose the right high-profile projects that were visible, remembered, seen, and that we can land a perfect role.
So what we did is we decided, well, what type of results would we get if we asked ChatGPT that, hey, I'm looking to increase my visibility and perhaps work towards advancement or promotion?
Yeah, and just a little framing is the activity was really Marty that came up with it. So I personally am not that interested with the career branding, but using ChatGPT to come up and be a coach and to help guide me through solving problems that I have or maybe my colleagues that I might be mentoring. So I think it's useful for us to be looking at this as a learning ChatGPT opportunity.
I did set up a coaching session with ChatGPT. I have it doing some career coaching. Not sure exactly where this is headed, but I can share that if anybody's interested.
Yeah, share that.
So this is where I started, is I gave it a role. I told it who it was, I gave it a persona. So you're a career coach, 25 years of experience, and then basically working with people at my level. And then I gave it the goal that I should stay in the same career or consider other options. So then I asked it for questions. Well, then it gives me 11 questions, which I'm not going to sit here and type out answers to all 11 of these questions. So then I redirected it and said, can you ask me one at a time, then allow me to answer, and then give me feedback or ask me another question? Sure. All right, so we do question 1, describe your current role. So I tell them a little bit about what I do now. And it says, it sounds like you hold a very important and influential role in your company. It requires a mix of strategic thinking, people management, and client relations, blah, blah, blah. And then so it gives me feedback, and then it's like on to the next question. So then I answer that, and then it, gives me some more feedback, and then it's asked me the next question. I mean, I'm assuming if I get all the way through this, it's gonna give me some advice, but I think this can probably work at some level. Go up here.
Tell it to limit it to 5 questions.
Yeah.
Instead of the 11.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, these are good prompts. Why are you here? How long have you been? How do you feel about it? Are you satisfied? Do you enjoy your daily tasks and responsibilities? How do you feel about your work-life balance? I mean, this is, I think, reasonable.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. And then for this use case, as with most of them, it's not necessarily about comparing it to like a human interaction. It's about comparing it to not having a coach at all, I think is what this should be compared to. I mean, I'm not going to hire a career coach to do this, but would I spend an hour on this just to see what it came up with, what advice it gave me? Sure.
So Brian, I'm really fascinated with this example, how you came back with the normal list, because I had these 11, 10, 5 lists, but then you said, no, ask me one question at a time. You essentially had a conversation with ChatGPT to make it more interactive.
Yeah.
And with that, it seems like the takeaway of a successful coaching session is when I come up with a new perspective. I start thinking of something differently that's helping me so doing this, learning how to use the tools, ChatGPT to do it, I think is pretty cool. Fast forward 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, this is just going to be built into our desktop. These kind of things somebody's going to figure out, and we'll just make it available. But right now, it's the opportunity for us is just to get an exposure of start thinking about what are some of these things and how can they help not only us individually, but our organization. This is a very cool example.
I created a self-assessment for individuals who are interested in hiring a coach. So I did a little bit of reverse engineering. I created the document first, and then I came over to ChatGPT, and I know they're not end all be all, not always correct, but by continuing to build it on my own, it was a learning experience. And yet I was able to quickly validate that I was on the right track.
Yeah, sometimes I just modify. I don't know if I continue to go, like I had to do some interviews last week, and I went to ChatGPT to come up with interview questions. And then they're based on the responses, I decided to go more on one side versus the other to get a specific type of interview question. So, but I like what Jesse's doing here, though. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for.
I think for the visual learners like me, and especially with our very limited knowledge as of this point, it's very helpful because for visual learners, I need to see what it looks like and the syntax behind it to yield a better result. Otherwise, you start to go on rabbit holes and it starts to take you in a path that then is very difficult to undo, and then come back to a better path that you want to go. I mean, the syntax of how you need to put it, then it really helps you visualize like, okay, if I want to stay in this framework or this parameter, this is how you need to phrase it. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to realize you're not talking to your human being that is going to conceptually think, okay, this is, I know you, and I know this is what you're saying, but directionally, this is what you want. And these are two different things. The machine is going to give you what you're asking, and that may really take you on a dangerous rabbit hole.
It really shows like all the options, for us as professionals in terms of how do we use it for our own branding? How do we use it with our teams? But also, for individual contributors, how they can use it in terms of craft my one-on-one agenda with my boss, or how do I manage up, or how do I ask my boss for feedback? Like, there's so many. It's such a great resource, and it will be exciting to see how this spins off into like HR related chatbots within the organization. Like, what a great tool for organizations to implement within themselves, of just another tool and resource, and then protecting and managing like what data is accessed.
I think the specific issue with Workday Skills Cloud is that it's crowdsourced data. So it's Workday clients. So I think you probably have to do a waiver to your policy to share data with other Workday customers. And then I think with the AI, it's going to be, it's going to take a minute, but it's going to be extending the existing confidentiality, PHI, PII, all those kind of policies, and putting in this context.